Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Premier Sim Gaming Leagues for Round 5 of the PlayStation 4 F3 tier. I knew I'd get that mixed up ever so slightly. Welcome to the one that they all want to win. Welcome to the Monaco Grand Prix, one of the most historic, one of the trickiest circuits on the Formula 1 calendar. 18-minute qualifying session, followed by a 39-lap race around the shortest circuit, just over 2 miles. 19 corners fit into that, and expect to see plenty of action throughout this qualifying session. My name is Luke Etheridge, and alongside me once again in the commentary box is F7 driver and F7 admin, Sam Thompson. Sam, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you very much. And yeah, the principality then of Monaco, the one they all want to win, as you did just say, and possibly the trickiest track on the calendar. Well, obviously the trickiest track on the calendar. It definitely isn't a track that people are fond of, and well, this is shown by this week's probably average absent Fred's call-ins or something. I don't know, but anyway, 19 turns around this corner, and it's just so tight around here. Overtaking doesn't really exist, and if you tuned into my F10 race on Thursday, it was not particularly the greatest of races, and I'm not a fan of this track personally, but there are people who absolutely love this track and think this track is absolutely perfect. So we'll just have to wait and see what action we can get.
Yes, quite often it's known in Formula 1 for being a track where you don't see the most action in the races, but qualifying, it's probably one of the greatest qualifyings of the season. It's not like at most tracks where if you run slightly off track, the worst that's going to happen is you invalidate your time. If you run slightly off circuit here at most corners, the best thing that's going to happen to you is that you lose an end plate, and you'll be very lucky to get away with just that. It's going to be so tricky for these drivers. They've got to be careful. They've got to push, but maybe, just maybe, leave a bit in hand on this qualifying lap, just to make sure on their banker lap at least, that they can get themselves a good time in. They're all heading around now, so let's go on board then with Connor Nanan as he heads around this circuit. On the start-finish straight, curving ever so slightly as you head towards the braking zone of Saint-Devote. Be very careful to avoid that curve on the right-hand side. Up the hill now through Beau Rivage, sweeping ever so slightly into Massenet and Casino Square. You want to stick over to the left-hand side through Massenet to get the best run through Casino Square. He's just clipped the wall ever so slightly, braking into the bump at Mirabeau. It'd be a bit tricky to do that in real life, and then into the Lowe's hairpin there. One of the slowest circuits on the F1 calendar, and the reason why they have to have a special steering rack for the Monaco Grand Prix just to get around there. Portier, the scene of Senna's crash in 1988 when he was absolutely dominating the Monaco Grand Prix. Through the tunnel now, downhill into another very tricky braking zone, and possibly one of the best overtaking opportunities into the Nouvelle chicane, and you can see there just how tricky the braking zone is into that corner. Connor Nanan making a bit of hash of things, I think it's fair to say, so we'll go on board with another driver. We'll see what Lars can do now as he heads up towards Tabac, again taking that in fifth gear, just pushing the wall on the right hand side through the swimming pool. Not as challenging as it used to be in the olden days, as they've now added a bit of an escape road to the second part. Through Vasquez into Antonino. He'll open the DRS very shortly, flat on the throttle, hugging the right hand side of the circuit, and that is a 108.652. Not a bad lap whatsoever for Lars. Chapalele and Ginger going into second and third, and Compassion now up into first position. Now, last week at the French Grand Prix, you might remember Compassion did a fantastic tyre saving job in France, as M-Shot now goes fastest. That's not necessary here. There's no track that is lighter on the tyres than Monaco, just because of how slow most of the corners are.
Yeah, and this track, it's kind of surprising to me, simply because of the fact that like there's so many corners that you had to basically be sliding through, but it is such a short track, and because the cars aren't exactly getting up to great speeds, they're able to actually save their tyres a lot easier, so tyre saving isn't an issue. The problem with this track in the race trim anyway isn't tyre saving, of course, as we've already just established, but it's more the fact that qualifying position here is going to be so important, and I think some drivers will be taking a lot of caution as well in qualifying. We've seen a lot of people put their laps up on Twitter or YouTube to see how good they are. I wouldn't expect them to get anywhere near those lap times. There'll be a sense of caution in this, simply because that's practice where you can basically afford these mistakes and everything to happen and still get away with them. this is not practice, this is the actual thing, and these guys will know that, and there's going to be a lot of sense of caution, particularly around this track, both in qualifying and in the race. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. Tyre saving, it's not an issue. Pit stops, I believe it is an easy soft medium. Mediums could probably make it from the end to the end from around lap 8 time. So pretty easy strategy and no real difference. And I think it'll be interesting if we did see some rain in the race as well, because the rain makes a whole different new level of difficulty around this track, because it's so difficult, so close, and because you're sliding around, you're so close to the barriers, it just makes it basically almost impossible to drive. So this is going to be a battle of skill, basically.
Oh yes, definitely. Forever goes into 40th position. Now we've got VLT Pat out on circuit, flying through the middle sector at the moment, and that is sort of the thing about the tyres at Monaco. The undercut works extremely well, because let's say you decide to pit on lap 6 or 7 for the set of the medium tyres. You're going to be struggling at the end of the race, but at the end of the day, it's Monaco. It doesn't matter how much you're struggling. It is extremely difficult for anyone to overtake around here. Just look at the 2019 Monaco Grand Prix. I think Lewis Hamilton's most infamous Bono "My Tyres Are Gone" race, where he managed to do 60 plus laps on the same set of medium tyres, and it was no problem whatsoever, because you can't overtake. Track position is king around here. We say that about a lot of circuits. Nowhere really is it more true than the streets of Monte Carlo. Gonanainen now just taking it a bit more steady maybe on this lap after having a few problems early on. Everyone is still on circuit and hasn't retired, which is always a bit of an achievement. I can tell you that was definitely not the case in F11. M Short, unsurprisingly, the fastest. Cedric second and Compassion third. 100th of a second separated all of them. And that is a cracking time from the Alfa Romeo of Gonanainen. 108.317. He looks really nailed around this circuit on his second run. Maybe feeling, now I've not got as much time to set a banker in, I might have to push a bit more.
Yeah, and Gonanainen has always been one of these drivers that has been, I wouldn't say, not to be rude, prone to mistake, of course, but he has been one of those drivers that has showed potential and has shown pace, but has just also had too many mistakes to go off, which has led him in really unfortunate situations. He's in the season right now, only 1 point this season, but he has shown in qualifying that he has good pace. Even in F2 last season, he had good pace in qualifying. It was just in the race, he just kept on falling back, whether it was just down to he had no racecraft compared to his competitors, or he just made silly mistakes which cost him valuable points, which would have seen him in a much higher position in that tier. So that is the problem with Gonanainen. He's quick, but he's very inconsistent and does have the tendency to make a lot of mistakes. So he needs to rectify this, because this is a track where the opportunity shines. Like, if you get a really good result in qualifying, you're basically, if you keep it all on the track and don't hit walls or anything, you're likely to score some good high quality points. So for him, he'll be just looking to make sure that he doesn't make those mistakes.
Yeah, definitely. That can be a very useful tactic around Monaco and a lot of the other street circuits, is just drive within yourself a lot more in the race. Try and concentrate on keeping it out the barriers, and you never know, if you're one of the drivers in the lower part of the championship, maybe someone like a Gonanainen, Dynastic, Sebvet, only in low single figure points at the moment, you never know how you might do. Lars comes across the line, he goes up into second position, and you've still got to feel a bit sorry for Lars. He looked in control of the race last time around at France, had that puncture in the lead, ended up not finishing, and I think it's fair to say his lap caused a bit of controversy on Twitter, as it involved a few bouncers off the walls, which a few of the other esport drivers weren't exactly pleased about. But he's in 4th position for now, and IGK Boss, now a full-time driver, replacing Lorenz, or IGK Kovacs, how it was known. 108.103. Might just sneak into the 107s here, and to be honest, you'd probably expect that by the end of the session.
Yeah, I definitely would expect 1 or 2 drivers to reach into the 1-minute 7s. I said about caution, drivers like this will show a bit of caution, but they seem to be doing it just fine at the moment. I think the whole thing with posting laps, particularly Lars this week, it has seemed more like a mind game, because people then start to get a little bit concerned, because why is he in this tier? He's so quick compared to all these guys and everything. But when he gets into the actual thing, he ends up not actually being anywhere near close to these guys, and then people just start to really attack him in a different way, really, and just say, yeah, he's just bottling it all the time or something, or he's doing something different. So for Lars, really, he just needs to prove his worth. He's a quality driver, a top driver, and probably should be one of the title contenders this season here in F3. But because of that genuine inconsistency he has, and the fact that his practice times are much different to his qualifying times in the actual thing, it does lead to a little bit of concern and speculation that perhaps he's just playing a little bit of mind games with people, and people are just getting on top of him very easily.
Yes, and before today, there was always that bit of disadvantage of practicing in time trial mode because it wasn't the same as the online cars, but Codemasters did update the game today, and that has been added. Lakitu goes into third position. He was another driver to try something different at the French Grand Prix. Went towards the soft tyres at the end of the race. It did get him his third fastest lap out of the 4 races so far, but unfortunately for him, possibly you could say, cost him a shot at victory as he wasn't too far behind Short and Cedric when he came into the pits. He's now into third place. Interesting to see Compassion and Joey up there because they're not two drivers. Well, Joey's been a bit inconsistent so far this season. 6th and 7th, his only points finishers. He didn't finish in Britain and he was 17th and last time out in France. And Dynastics only getting points in the first race of the season in Australia, which, to be honest, is a track that has some very tight... Well, Compassion, sorry, he only got points last time out, I should say, in 8th place. Maybe he's just coming into a bit of form all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think Compassion, he's a quick driver, but he's just had a bit of a slow start, and perhaps he has struggled really to put in the performance that he needs. I think it really was sort of like a confidence booster last week in France, and particularly because he knows that he was able to get those tyres to the end. Perhaps he seeks a little bit of an attribute of a tyre saver right there, or maybe it was just a one-time lucky sort of thing. But I think Compassion, he knows what he's doing. He's a good driver, and I think this season is starting to show up into 4th place right now, and I think he's gained a little bit more confidence now that he knows that he can score points and he can be up with the quicker guys. And as for Joey, yeah, it's similar to Compassion, but for him, he's just not really showing too much race pace. In the race, he seems to drain his ERS very quickly, which leaves him very exposed. At some points, this is a track where you don't really use it that often because there's not much straights at all. So it could be a complete different story here. Dynastics, I think it's a bit of a downfall, really, in some sense, because in pre-season at Bahrain, this may just be his track. I believe he got pole position, didn't he? Or he was definitely fighting for it. And then the first race of the season looked all right, and then since then he's just completely dropped down, whether it's down to misfortune that we've missed or just genuinely not had the pace. So for Dynastics, he just needs to improve that pace, and there's a lot of drivers who I can say that, you know, probably should be a little bit higher than what they currently are, and we'll just have to wait and see really at the moment. As we've only got 5 minutes in this session, there's a lot still to play for, and possibly the more important session is this session, so a lot of drivers will be starting to probably think about getting themselves calm and ready for their final qualifying laps and going for that pole position, which is probably now the best position to go for in this race.
Yes, definitely. Lars heads towards the line. He only moves up 1 place, just ahead of Gunnar and then by 8 thousandths of a second. I wonder if he's got enough left in those tyres to think about going for another lap. You could probably get away with it at Monaco more than you could any other circuit, but again, you're then committing yourself to start on a bit of older tyres, having to pit early, then just hope you can manage them. His teammate Compassion now into second, just 3 thousandths of a second behind Benny Traeger. He was NWS Benny. He's now changed his name ever so slightly after leaving the NWS team. 3 thousandths of a second ahead at the moment. It is looking extremely close for top 12 drivers, separated by just under a second. Interesting that the Alpha Tauris are down at near the bottom again. 12 for Shapalele, 17th for Ginger. They made the alternate strategy work absolutely beautifully last time out, with Ginger and Shapalele finishing 4th and 5th respectively. Around Monaco, the alternate strategy has nowhere near that same amount of power, just because it leaves you on the soft tyres at the end of the race and you can't really use them anywhere.
Well, I think the interesting one about the alternate strategy is the person in 11th place. I think they are probably, in my books, the only one that could probably get a win and that possibility is quite low still as well. So at the moment, Pat starts on the medium tyres. What he would need to do to secure possibly a victory is he'll have to be clinical with the overtakes, of course, which is obviously very unlikely to really happen here at Monaco from the start. But he would have to hope that the guys behind him, who will be starting on the medium tyres as well, most likely, he'd be hoping for them to hold up the soft runners, and if he has pure pace on those mediums compared to all of them, he can possibly, and this is again quite unlikely, he can possibly bridge a gap between him and the leaders, and even if he doesn't come out in first, he could probably get the possibility of going for a better position than what he started in. So for those outside, it's a good chance to get some really good points, particularly the guys at the front of who will be 11th, 12th, 13th, for example. But also a win, well, we'll probably need some quite dramatic stuff to happen. So it will be a very interesting race ahead for those outside the top 10.
Yes, definitely. The last time in the real world that the Monaco Grand Prix was won by anyone outside the top 10, Olivier Panis in 1996 from 14th on the grid. And trust me, if we get a race anywhere near as crazy as that, you're going to want to grab some popcorn in the race, because that means we are on for an absolute classic here in PSGL. Cedric, last week's pole sitter, looks as though he's going onto another hot lap here. just enjoys doing a warm-up lap on those tyres, and we said you can get 2 runs out of them. IGK Boss, fastest at the moment, 107.755, a quarter of a second faster than anyone else, and compared to the gaps we've seen this season, that is an absolute chasm. Most of the drivers are out on track, and it's not something we've mentioned so much, but it is obviously a huge factor around here. Traffic in qualifying can be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, it can be. Luckily, we haven't really seen much of this. I don't know if Cedric's going to encounter that soon. I think Lars is just ahead of him, but there's enough distance, there's enough of a gap really for Lars not to be a figure. But towards the end, if you're literally finishing your lap, if you had a driver that's a couple of seconds up the road, it could be a little bit concerning, because obviously those drivers are going to be cooling down their tyres to make sure that they get the optimum line out the final corner. So I think it's going to be really difficult as we see Cedric coming through sector 3 now. How's he doing through there? He's up by a significant amount, and actually there was a little bit of a problem with traffic. I was a little bit unaware about that. Actually, Chapelele as well, also needing to be passed, so a little bit of a distraction there for Cedric. He should be alright. I think he did look up a little bit, and yeah, you see there, he's lost quite a bit of significant time there, which is not what he would have wanted to do. Ginger is next across the line. He's had no traffic to deal with, from what I'm aware, and he has improved, but just not enough to really challenge anyone.
Yeah, Ginger looks like he's struggling a bit so far this season. Gonanena now goes on to provisional pole position by 4 thousandths of a second. And just look at the traffic jam we've got coming around Vasquez and Anthony Doves at the moment. You just saw it behind Boss. All of a sudden there are quite a few cars starting to queue up as everyone is just looking for that clean bit of air. Not long then to go in this session. Lakitu, he's going to be heading across the line now. He's actually invalidated his lap, so if he's got enough to set another lap, he'll be absolutely fine. Checkered flag is out, and our championship leader has invalidated. He's going to be starting, at best, in 10th position.
Yeah, and there's still a lot of people still going. Chapelele, 2 attempts up, he's hit the barrier. I don't know how much that is going to hinder him for these final 2 corners. Really struggling to make it round. I don't know if he picked up damage, but by the looks of that second to last corner, it looked like it was, but I don't think that's enough to really take him off any time. It has. I've completely bottled that one, but still a lot of drivers left to go outside that top 10 to set a lap, particularly Seb Vet and Pat right now. I don't know if Falk is on a lap as well. He is, and he is up by a 10th as well, so it's all really on those 3, and this is not very good for the championship leader. Pat is down, he's not going to be getting any higher. Invalidation for Falk and invalidation for Seb Vet. So now M. Shaw is in a peculiar position. He's starting 10th place, probably not a place you want to start, and unfortunately that is qualifying for him. And for the championship leader down in 10th place, are we finally going to see a race winner where it's not M. Short, and M. Short has been participating in the race, finally?
Yes, we might do, of course. The only time he didn't win was Belgium, when he wasn't here. But qualifying then is over, and it is Gonanainen on pole position. Boss in second, just 4 thousandths behind. Lakitu managed to get up to 4th on his final run. Quite a few drivers there setting some very quick lap times, and M Short in probably one of the worst positions you want to be. Yes, he's in the top 10, but he will have to start on the tyres that he has set that flying lap on. So the qualifying order then, Gonanainen getting his first pole position of the season. Boss on the front row in his first race as a reserve. He'll be hoping to take the lead into turn 1. Compassion is 3rd, Lakitu 4th, Benny 5th, Simon his best qualifying of the season in 6th, Joey, Lars, Cedric and M Short rounding out the top 10. Pat will have free choice of tyres in 11th, as will Dynastics, Shapalele, Zach, Falk, Ginger, Seb Vet and Ferreira, the 2 Haas cars. Unfortunately for them, copying real life ever so slightly, down in 17th and 18th position.
Something I like to pick up is how genuinely close the constructors usually tend to be. There's 8 constructors within the top 10, so really that is a brilliant sort of show from all the teams there. And I wonder how they can portray that in the race. Currently leading the constructors is McLaren, and concerningly, they are the lowest of those 8 constructors because they start down in 10th place. So Red Bull high up on their heels. I don't think Red Bull they have got a car in the top 10, but I don't think they're that high either. So for Renault, it's a good opportunity. For Racing Point, they look both because at the moment they're currently in 9th place in the constructors, which again is quite low for the team of Lars and Compassion, which you may have thought would be most certainly a high-end midfield team. So we'll just have to wait and see. But it's a good opportunity for those teams to pick up some points. Gonanainen, a really good opportunity to get his season back on track. Only 1 point so far. Only came in France as well, and probably came only that first point in France because of the punches that were dished out. That's no disrespect to Gonanainen in that regard anyway. But it's a really interesting day, and I think it's going to be a really close one because obviously, Boss, he is a reserve, but I know that Boss is quite a quick driver on his day. And once he does practice and gets a few laps in, he knows how to work the car to its maximum. And I think this is the same with a lot of these drivers, but I've only really experienced that with Boss. I'm afraid that's the only one I can really talk about in that sort of sense. But all these drivers know what they're doing. It's just about who doesn't get wing damage and who can really have the most momentum in this race and who could just stay out of trouble.
Yes, definitely staying out of trouble. Very important about Monaco. And interestingly, the top 3 in the Constructors' Championship at the moment, McLaren, Red Bull and Renault, only have one of their drivers here. So it's just going to be that bit more difficult for them to pick up a lot of points around the Monaco circuit. 3.337 kilometres, 2.074 miles, only 1 DRS zone, of course, on the pitch straight, and the 19 corners, apart from the chicane and Rascas, haven't really changed too much over the years in Formula 1. Those are the tyres that everyone is on. We knew the top 10, and outside the top 10, everyone apart from Seb Vet has gone for the mediums. Seb Vet going for the hard tyres. Not normally a tyre you see too often around Monaco.
That's an interesting strategy. I guess what he's trying to think is that there'll most likely be a collision midway through the race where the medium tyre drivers will be looking to come in and the soft tyre drivers have already come in, of course, which at that point he should, if he keeps ahead of Ferreira anyway, or he should in hindsight, by the end of all these drivers coming into the pit, he should be in the lead of this race. And I think at that point is the point where he thinks there's going to be a safety car. I'm guessing that's his strategy, but yeah, I'm not really sure with that one.
Yeah, we will have to see. Anyway, all the drivers lined up on the grid as we're getting ready for the lights to come on here to get the Monaco Grand Prix underway. Who's going to get the best start? And we are underway then. What are the starts like? A very good start then from Gonanainen, and pretty good from Compassion as well, as he's going to try and get alongside Boss here into turn 1. It's Gonanainen with an absolutely fantastic start. Compassion up into second. Lakitu jumping his way past Boss into third. He's had a bit of a nightmare run into turn 1. He'd have been hoping to take the lead. Simon's trying to go round the outside of one of the Red Bulls and came very, on one of the Ferraris, and came very close to finding his way into the barriers, but I think everyone has managed to get through the first section of the lap relatively unscathed, and now it comes into the chicane. Now it all just slows down all of a sudden in a virtual safety car, so someone definitely hasn't got through fully unscathed. Ferreira's got a severe collision with Ginger, as of Dynastics, Falk, Zach, Benny as well getting one. There's all sorts of severe collision penalties, and we're going to have to do some very quick flicking through the field, I think, here to try and work out who's managed to pick up some front wing damage, because that's all I can imagine the virtual safety car is going to be for. Falk is missing an end plate, Dynastics also, so I think it's just that in the background at the hairpin, Ginger missing a load of his front wing. They've all just come together at the hairpin in the concertina effect, and that has led to a virtual safety car.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised about that being a virtual safety car. It doesn't look like much damage was done, but I think you said Ginger.
Whoa. Sorry to interrupt, Sam. Our race leader's got a drive-through penalty for speeding under the virtual safety car, and Compassion has as well, so that's Lakito basically in the lead of this race after starting in, what, 4th, 5th position?
Wow, I didn't expect that. And I said about this, silly mistakes will cost you wins at Monaco, and these two have most certainly made that silly mistake. So for Compassion and Goddinen, they would need a hell of a lot of luck now to get a race win. They're basically doing 2 stops in this race, but obviously they're not making a pit stop, but they have to go through the pit lane at pit lane speed, which technically minus about 4 seconds perhaps. They're basically making a pit stop. What I'm trying to say is they'll be at the back of this train, and as we've already discussed, overtaking at this track is basically super difficult. It's very difficult. Trickiest track on the circuit to overtake, tightest circuit on the calendar. So for Gonanen and Compassion, they'll be absolutely kicking themselves, because it could have been a really good result today and they blew it.
Yes, the only saving grace for them is so many drivers getting involved in incidents in lap 1. Falk, Dynastics, Ferreira, Ginger and Seb Vett, who with the double stack has really been screwed over, all having to come into the pits. Benny coming into the pits early on as well. I wonder if he picked up a tiny bit of damage on lap 1. He's gone onto the hard tyres. So Gonanen and Compassion still coming out in 11th and 12th place at the moment. They are obviously still on the soft tyres, can't pull into the pits from a drive-through and decide, oh yeah, I'll just change my tyres now. That is not how it works. They're going to have to try and use these soft tyres at least to catch up to the back of Pat and Zach and some of those other drivers and see what they can do. We'll get the position change up at the moment, and that's not normally something you see at Monaco. Apart from Boss, everyone has moved position. Gonanen, the biggest loser, obviously, with that drive-through penalty. A very good start from Chapalele. When all the drivers around him seem to have got involved in incidents, he was able to keep it clean, and he's jumped himself up into 7th place, and I believe he's the lead car on that medium tyre.
Yeah, he'll be quite comfortable, quite happy in that position. He'll be looking to stick within that 1 second mark, which I don't think he's doing at the moment. I think that is really what determines how his race goes. Because if he sticks within that DRS section, which he's actually doing right now, and he's actually got DRS through the first corner, only DRS straight as well, so pretty crucial he plays his cards well. These soft tyres don't go off till around lap 6, lap 7, so he will have to start pushing a little bit to keep within that. But right now, I think he'd be pretty happy where he's at, and I think he really could be in with a shout for a really good result here if he plays his cards correctly.
Yeah, we'll have to say things not going well for Gonanen and Benny then. They're making Gonanen's making his first pit stop for a change of tyres, and he's actually going to come out behind his teammate who started well at the back of the grid. Benny's been in to put on a set of the medium tyres as well. If they're gentle, they should have no problem getting them to the end. Like, they shouldn't even really be in puncture cemetery. They'll be struggling pace-wise, but we said it before, it's Monaco. As long as you can get a clean exit out of Antioch and a clean exit out of Portier, you're probably okay when it comes to overtakes, although sometimes you do see drivers bravely go for it at the hairpin, but you need to have a very willing ally in your overtake to try and make it work. Then Lakitu trying to escape at this point in the race, and he's not doing too bad. It's all spreading out ever so slightly at the front of the field. He's a second ahead of Boss, who's just over a second ahead of Simon. Lars is a further 1.8 seconds back. Then you've got the 2 Mercedes of Joey and Cedric, and this could work out really well for them in the constructors, because again, a lot of the big teams have only got one driver. They've got both of theirs doing fairly well, and in 4th in the championship, this could be an opportunity for Mercedes in that Constructors. And you imagine, out of this lead group, these are probably going to be the first 2 drivers to pit to just try and get that undercut to work and jump a couple of positions.
Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised, really, about the gaps, really, at the top. I was expecting them to be really, really close, of course, and I was expecting there to be a target just to keep within the second. I don't really expect anything else but that, but apparently not. And particularly Simon, he's losing a lot of time to Boss at the moment. Now 2 seconds gap between him, showing that he hasn't exactly got pace at the moment. I don't know whether he's just struggling with his tyres a little bit. A little lock up there on the front right. But Lars seems to be closing quite considerably and is looking to be close within DRS soon. I don't think Simon's got damage. It doesn't look like visibility-wise he's got damage, but who knows as he clatters the wall there. Again, no damage. So yeah, he's losing a lot of time, and I don't know what's happened to his pace. It's just completely sunk.
I do know quite often Simon always gets a massive drift on there through Casino Square. I do know he does a lot of his time trial laps with anti-lock brakes on. Now, of course, the only assist you're allowed in F3, it's the highest league that allows any assists, is the line. So I just wonder if that's why he's struggling a bit more with his race pace, managing that lack of ABS over an entire race. And we are seeing quite a lot of puffs of smoke coming from his tyres, and Lars is really starting to catch up now. Gonanainen and Falk have swapped position. That looks, by the track map at least, like an orchestrated change of position. So Gonanainen now up into 12th. Falk obviously reserving for this. He is now in 13th place. It's going to be interesting to see how those drivers who pitted early on do at the end of the race. Simon is losing absolute chunks of time at the moment, almost a second a lap now to the cars ahead. And this is going to frustrate those behind. Lars is probably going to be thinking about, right, where can I try and get this move done?
Yeah, he's looking at pretty much every corner, and again, you said this about his lack of his lack of using no ABS. I wonder if he's forgot to read the rules. He is relatively new to PSGL, so he may have completely forgot that and thought, because line is on, I'm expecting all assists to be available to me, and obviously they're not. I'm just looking at him to every corner and seeing how he brakes, but he's locking up almost everywhere. Every corner he goes into, he's making a slight lock up. I'd expect it at these places anyway, because for some reason the game seems to lock you up when you go through some of these corners, which is quite strange. But yeah, he's locking up a lot of places, lost a chunk of time, a big amount of time. And for Lars, he would want to get past very soon, because he'll become increasingly frustrated very, very quickly, I reckon.
Yes, definitely, but he wasn't close enough there coming out of Portier, so didn't really have a chance. Interestingly, Compassion's been into the pits. And looking at the time he's lost, he might have changed his front wing. Our championship leader has also ditched the softs very early on as well, and is now the lead car out of all of those that have done a pit stop. He's currently, looking at the time, he's 28 seconds off the lead as Lars comes into the pits. This is not surprising. He's stuck in traffic. He can't make up any time. He might as well come in and put the set of the medium tyres on, because he'll be the lead car on that mediums.
Yeah, it was a good decision from Lars. I'm surprised one of the Mercedes didn't do that, particularly Joey. I was expecting him to do that because he was caught in that traffic as well. It seemed to be those three, and obviously Cedric has fallen a long way behind his teammate. I was kind of expecting at least one of the Mercedes to pit, but apparently not. And, well, I think that's a bit of a blunder from Mercedes there, and very surprising sort of blunder, to be honest. I haven't really seen them miss out on much this season, so we'll just have to wait and see. I think Cedric did actually have a little bit of a blunder last week in France after a safety car, but yeah. And there goes Benny. He's out. He's retired in the pit lane, so yeah, nothing will really be happening there, I reckon.
Yes, I was going to say, the only thing that could maybe make this a bit better for those that have stayed out on the soft tyres is a safety car in the next few laps. Then, of course, they'll be able to come into the pits, probably not lose too much track position, and knowing they'll be right behind those on the medium tyres. And we are seeing then Simon come into the pits, perhaps those front lockups, just starting to wear his tyres out ever so slightly at the moment. We've got a yellow flag in Sector 1 as well. I'm not sure if that's...
Oh, I was looking at Chapelele and Cedric. That was very, very close indeed. I don't know if Chapelele got a little bit of wing damage there off that side. I don't think he did. That was very, very close to the wall indeed. And remember Barrichello getting squeezed by Michael Schumacher in Hungary 2010. That's what it felt like going into the first corner. But I think they both got away unscathed, but interesting for Cedric going quite defensive through there and aggressively defending, making sure that Chapelele can't get by. But this is now the point where the medium tyres are probably now better suited than the soft tyres. So expect Chapelele to try and fly away now, but this is not helping him at all.
Well, Cedric's running low on ERS here, so there's going to be a chance for Chapelele down the inside into the chicane. There was contact between the two of them. They both got a 3-second time penalty, and Cedric ends up staying ahead. And that's sort of the thing at Monaco. Chapelele will say, I was faster, I was entitled to space. Cedric's just going to say, he didn't make the corner, so why should I give him the place back?
Yeah, I think, interestingly, it just depends who comes to the defence, and Cedric's going to give him more hassle by staying out here. I wonder if he'll go defensive or he'll just say, yeah, I'll concede in the position. It doesn't look like he's going to. He's going to defend that position. Chapelele round the outside. That's actually a pretty good move from the AlphaTauri. I think for a moment I saw some wing damage. I don't think it has, but look how much time it's cost them. 9 seconds behind Boss now. I just realised Joey's pit. I was going to say for a minute, but still 9 seconds between Chapelele and the leaders. Not what he would have liked to see. And more interestingly, Pat has actually caught right up to the back of this V's two, and Chapelele now is the leader of this train. And this is where things get interesting, because Lars is now going to start catching. Oh, how's that been initiated then?
What is that for? There's been no retirements. I haven't seen a yellow flag. I mean, Ginger's coming into the pits. He's changing a front wing, I think, but has he lost his front wing and that's what's caused the safety car? Seb Vet coming in as well. This is very interesting. I apologise, folks, but we've got a safety car and we've got absolutely no clue what has caused it here. Lakito and Boss obviously coming into the pits, as well Cedric. This is beautiful for Lakito and Boss, just to get basically almost a free pit stop, and they've got a chance actually of possibly still coming out in the lead of this race.
Well, for Chapelele, he'd be absolutely kicking himself. He's actually pitted for the... Okay. I was rather surprised about that, to be honest. I wasn't expecting that. And I think more interestingly, he's going to be stuck in the pit lane with all sorts of problems. And he's gone down to 8th place. People have moved up. M Short up to 5th place. Has he moved up to 4th? No, he hasn't. Boss is in 4th place. Simon's up to 3rd. It's a little interesting for a point. Lars into 2nd place, and then Lakito into 1st. So for Lars, this has worked out relatively well. I mean, the problem with his thing is the fact that obviously Lars now is stuck behind Lakito when he was probably expecting he would be ahead of Lakito. So for Lars, it's a plus he's in 2nd. It's a bad thing that he didn't take the lead, really.
Yes, that's always a gamble at Monaco. There's always a possibility, pretty much, it's almost a guarantee, in fact, that in every single race, no matter how good you are, someone is going to make a slight mistake, and there will be a safety car. And to be honest, I kind of get why Chapelele's gone on the hard tyres, because it goes back to that saying, it's Monaco. He's probably not going to move any positions forward, but Gonanainen's not exactly on 7-lap-old medium tyres. He's not going to have an easy job getting ahead of him.
No, and I think this comes for the whole dynamic. Is there going to be another safety car at the end where the medium tyre drivers would feel like they probably can ditch them for the softs at the end? That's an interesting dynamic, that one is. Because I don't think they would. I think they're smart enough to know that Monaco you cannot overtake. But I think it's an interesting dynamic for the likes of Lakito, because if they do get a good gap away and there is another safety car at the end, would they want to risk that factor? But yeah, I don't think it was really it's an interesting one. You're not going to go forwards, you're not going to go backwards at Monaco, really. You're not really going to change too much position. So for Chapelele, I think it's just more about delivering the points at the end of the day. So it's not going to really change much no matter what tyres he's on. At least he's got it out the way, that's the main thing.
Yes, and of course, if he'd gone for the softer setup in qualifying, so only having one set of medium tyres throughout the entire race weekend, he's already used that set and you've got to change onto a different type of tyre, so he didn't really have much choice. What to go for the hards. Falk's been back into the pits to put the set of mediums on that he started the race on. That is not a bad idea, to be honest, from the Alfa Romeo driver. He's now coming out in 15th place, just staying ahead of Ginger. Sebvet is currently 17th and last, and we've only had one retirement in that race. And it didn't cause a safety car or anything, because Benny retired in the pits. So we are still behind for safety car. Lakitu has led basically ever since the virtual safety car where Gonanainen and Compassion had that drive-through penalty. Lars is second, Simon is third, and then Bosch, M. Short, Joey, Cedric, Chapalele, Gonanainen, and Pat, those that have got points at the moment. And we can just have a quick check of the penalty situation. 7th, 8th and 9th are 3 seconds. Dynastics has 5 seconds, which he'll serve if he comes into the pits again. And Ginger seems to be really struggling around here. 6 seconds of penalties at this moment in time. I think we're going to get another lap behind the safety car. It seems to have been out a while just because of everyone obviously coming into the pits.
Yeah, it's going to be staying out for a little while. Excuse me there, I went a little bit deep for a moment. It was a little bit odd, creepy, but yeah, it will most certainly stay out for another lap. And rather unfortunate since everyone has now caught up. So if the next straight was obviously the pit lane, then it probably would have come in this lap, but obviously it's not. So interestingly, Ferreira, he's going to come off the hard tyres and go onto the mediums. So he's sacrificed a bit of track position, I believe, to head onto the mediums, which is, in my opinion, another interesting strategy there, because this track is not really the fondest track for overtaking, as we've established a lot of times now at this point. But I guess for Ferreira, similar to a lot of others, just making sure that he's got the faster tyre, so perhaps he could try and steal away the fastest lap point, which obviously, in the position he's in right now, wouldn't get him a point, but it definitely wouldn't mean that no one else would get a point. So I wonder if that's just what Ferreira's thinking, perhaps, but yeah, a very interesting decision to give up track position at Monaco.
Yes, he was, to be fair, he was only in 15th position, I believe at the time anyway, so he's only cost himself a couple of places, and maybe he just feels more comfortable on the mediums. He will comfortably get towards the end of the race. The only person who might be even slightly worried about anything is Gonanainen, but this safety car period, I think any worries about anyone having to pit for anything other than damage or another safety car, we're probably not going to see. And the safety car is coming in this lap, so it is all up to Lakitu now, as you can see him weaving desperately there for a second. Lars behind as well, just trying to build up some temperature in these tyres. You need those rears to be well heated up for when you come out of Raskas and Anthony Nose and gun it on the throttle pedal here. And Lakitu looks as though he's lining up to do exactly that. He's getting ready to warm up, and we're going to go back to green flag racing with 2/3 of this race remaining. Lakitu's had an absolutely fantastic restart then. Lars, Simon, Bosch, M. Short gaining a lot of positions for all those different pit stops, and that early pit stop behind. The two Mercedes are still together. Cedric has earned a time penalty, obviously getting caught out ever so slightly at Saint-Bavot, and you can see already a bit of a gap behind him down towards Chapalele. Falk using those medium tyres straight away to get ahead of Dynastics. Obviously those on the hard tyres will be struggling a bit more with tyre temperature, and you can just see that through some of the gaps that have developed in the field. Gonanainen all over the back of Chapalele at the moment, can't have a move into the hairpin. Will everyone get through the hairpin steadily? And the gaps that have grown are actually quite massive. Ferreira seems a long way back at the moment. The leaders are nearly through the tunnel by the time he's just coming around the hairpin. The field very spread out after that safety car, but a great restart from Lakitu. He's already nearly got a second ahead.
Well, he has now got a second ahead, as you said that, but I think the grid spread is just simply because this track is so tight. You're going such slow, you got such slow sort of points when people are just going through much quicker. And I think obviously because of the lack of overtaking, people who take their chances and opportunities just end up losing a lot more time because of that. Lakitu looks like he's mastering this circuit at the moment. He's already well clear of Lars, and this time Simon's actually keeping up. So I think this will be interesting to see, because Simon at the moment is doing all right, but the gap created though by Lakitu, he puts himself in a very secure position at the moment. So for him, he just needs to concentrate on getting his head down and making sure he wins this race in the end.
Yes, just keeping it nice and clean for him now, not relaxing at any bit. You can't really afford to relax anywhere at Monaco, because there's not really any straights where you can have a bit of the breath. This is probably one of the straightest parts of the track, and even then you've got to make sure you get it right into the tunnel, get ready for the braking zone for the chicane. I'm interested to see how Simon does, because he looked pretty quick in qualifying. He looked fairly good at the start of the race as well. I think it was once those tyres started to wear ever so slightly, he was struggling more and more with lockups, and that's when we saw him drop down the field. And to be honest, already Lars has just extended that gap. Heading towards a second, DRS will be activated It'll be activated at the end of this lap. The first time they'll be able to use it is heading into lap 17. But Boss has got a fantastic exit there out of Anthony Nose. Not able to do anything about it at the moment. Further down the field, Ferreira has got ahead of Seb Vex. Maybe an orchestrated move between the two Haas drivers. Ferreira on those mediums, you would have been expected to be a lot quicker. And, of course, he doesn't have a penalty either. Seb Vex pulls into the pits once again. I think that is now pit stop number 3 for him. The Haas team, busy boys and girls in the pit lane at the moment. And it is a front wing change and medium tyres going on the Haas. So he's going to be well clear in last place, but might just have a possibility to set that fastest lap on his own. And Lakitu's still just escaping away at the moment. He's pulled away about a second a lap since the safety car has come in. 2.2 seconds at the moment. He's got to be careful that he doesn't go too fast and wear the tyres unnecessarily, as something's happening in the background with Simon and Boss.
Yeah, Boss looks quite optimistic for a move there. I don't think it was really necessary from him. He went to the inside line. He wasn't side by side with Simon either. He was definitely having more momentum through there, but he just sent it, I think, a little bit too early. And he could have just been more patient to wait for this moment where he has DRS. Not a particularly great exit from him, so he's not going to be catching Simon just yet. But luckily, they both get away with no wing damage. But I believe Boss got a penalty there for that, so yeah, not very great. And virtual safety car now. It looked like there's something. Oh, Chapalele. So Ginger's retired for the session. Chapalele's got to go around the entire lap with no front wing. Alpha Tauri are just having a bit of a mare of a season, despite them possibly they should have probably won a race by now, to be honest, because in Britain they had magnificent pace, but a humongous strategy blunder obviously stopped them from winning that race. And in France they were on for something really, really good, and there was other tracks as well which they were on for a strong position. So they've had a bit of a dismal season, haven't they? And really unfortunate in some sense. But I don't know how Chapalele's done that, whether he's just locked up. It looked like it was at Raskas, so I wonder if he's just locked up there and just kind of waved into the wall a little bit. So for Chapalele, he'll have to pit. I wouldn't be surprised if he retires as we get back underway with the action. But yeah, Chapalele, I think it's really game over for him today, and I think he won't be continuing.
No, he's done the sensible thing of pulled out the way. I wonder if he's just put a bit of a too heavy foot on the throttle coming out of Anthony Nose, maybe with a DRS open, and just wheel span into the barrier. It's very easily done. I nearly did it after the safety car came in, to be honest. In F11, I had to be very careful, but Chapalele will be coming into the pits, and almost certainly, I imagine, won't be seeing too much more of him in this race. And there we go, he has retired. We've seen a swap between Compassion and Pans. Compassion now all into 9th position. Now, if he can get some pace on those medium tyres, as Cedric and Joey there. Joey's actually ghosting at the moment, so I wonder if he's made a slight mistake or left for session.
Yeah, he said about his internet issues, and it's finally cursed him really for this race. So I think that might be race over for a little while.
He's begging in the chat for someone to invite him. So yeah. Sam, you have a job.
I think I will send him one now. If I could just, hopefully it will come up quickly for me.
Nothing ever comes up quickly when you want it to. Let's be perfectly honest at the moment. I was about to say before I saw Joey drop down ever so slightly, this could be interesting for Compassion. If he can use the slightly better pace on those tyres and catch up to the back of, maybe to the back of Gonanainen, and if they can close in on Cedric and some of these with any penalties, he might not be in a too bad a position despite that drive-through penalty early on. Obviously, we are now on to lap 19 of the race, so 20 and a half laps to go pretty much. Lakitu's calmed down ever so slightly. He's not showing that same electric pace he was earlier, but he's still 2.8 seconds ahead. And Simon is keeping up with Lars this time around. He seems a lot more comfortable on the mediums than he was on the softs in that first stint.
It's kind of surprising because in that first stint, everywhere he was locking up. I wonder if, you said it's down to his inexperience, perhaps it's his inexperience with worn tyres. And I know that sounds strange, but obviously when your tyres are a bit more worn than what they were previously, usually it becomes a little bit more difficult to brake than what the start. And I know that sounds kind of strange, but that's basically what happens when you run no ABS. Basically just locks up through the corners, and once the tyres are worn, it means that the braking efficiency isn't that good. And yeah, you'll see more lockups furthermore in the race. And that's why when you get a puncture, basically, whenever you turn the car, your tyres basically just lock up all the time. So that is basically the whole thing. Lakitu, I think it's really race done and dusted as long as he keeps it clean and there's no VSC or safety car. So right now at the moment, he's enjoying it out there. 3 seconds clear. Lars will be just... I would say Lars will just be conserving, just making sure he can get it to the line as well. And I think this is just going to be the story for anyone in this position. Perhaps Boss will be looking a little bit more... wanting to get ahead of these drivers, a little bit more anxious to get ahead of these drivers, as of course he needs to make a gap because he has a penalty, and if he does have the pace, then he'll be definitely looking to slip past Simon and, well, eventually Lars in the next couple of laps. So really it's going to be an interesting one for those two, but yeah, well, who knows.
I mean, this is a situation Verstappen found himself in 2019 when he was stuck behind Hamilton and had that penalty, so knew he needed to make the overtake. But it's Monaco. We've said it a few hundred times now, I think, during this stream. And so it was very difficult, and it ended up costing him positions. And at the moment, that penalty would only cost him one position, but I'm sure he'd rather get ahead of Simon and Lars, if possible, and just try and pull away to see if he could maybe get a podium in what is his first race as a full-time driver this season, now that he's in the Williams team. And this is a good performance from the Williams team. They've only had 1 point so far this season. They're at the bottom of the championship, and Pat looks as though he is going to be getting at least 1 point. We don't know if anything else will happen, and Boss currently on for a 5th position, not doing too bad whatsoever. Joey looks like he is definitely back in control of his car, so we'll see if he can work his way up, and to be honest, that might not cost him a hell of a lot having that incident earlier, because Cedric's got 6 seconds of penalties and Gordon Aynan has got 3 seconds, so as it stands, Joey still looks as though he might be finishing in 6th place. Those on the hard tyres, a bit further back, do look like they're struggling more. Pat, Zach, both on the hards. They've got Falk not too far behind him. He'll be hoping to get his way through. He'll be hoping to get his first points of the season in his first race.
Well, obviously, because this track is, it's got a lot of tight corners, so obviously grip is crucial around this track, and obviously that's exactly why these hard tyre drivers are completely struggling compared to these medium tyre drivers. They just don't have the grip through the corners. They have to be much more cautious than these drivers. So don't be surprised if there is an attack from Falk. But the thing is, because this track really doesn't have much really to gain, and particularly because of this factor as well, a DRS train, of course, coming from Pat and then through Zach, really. I think that Pat wouldn't even mind Zach in his DRS, because it does mean that Falk doesn't get by and then put more pressure on him. And at the end of the day, those hard tyres are just gonna eventually become better than the mediums. So for Pat, he'll be in a happy situation for now. For Zach, as long as he keeps in the DRS, he's in a good situation.
Yes, and I've just noticed something that's going to make it a bit more harder for Falk. He's missing his front right end plate at this moment in time, so he's got the tyre advantage, definitely, but he will start understeering a lot more as the race goes on. It wouldn't be surprising to see him maybe pick up a bit more damage as the tyres start to wear ever so slightly. Dynastics is probably not enjoying those hards too much at the moment. He's staying in contact with these guys. The lone Ferrari, he just picks up a penalty there, but he's in 13th place, and with a penalty, I think it's going to take a bit of a minor miracle for him to get any points at the moment. As Falk again there, I think, just tapped the wall ever so slightly, but luckily for him, he's already lost that end plate. You can't lose it twice. All of a sudden, Boss getting really close to Simon, up the hill there, into Massenet, just running out of room. All of a sudden, really starting to put Simon under a lot of pressure, and putting his throttle pedal under a bit too much pressure there, coming out of Casino Square. And that was probably just a bit of brief respite for Lars, who might have been hoping that these two stay battling a slight bit more, and it just allows him to get away, and that could even allow our championship leader to catch up.
Yeah, and we look at the ERS as well. It looks like Lars is quite comfortable with it, and the same with Boss. Simon, not really. It looks like he's just been pushing for quite a while. There's a yellow flag later, earlier on the track, so I wonder if that's just a bit of an end plate gone, because there's no car stationary. I think for Boss right now, he doesn't really need to use much overtake, because it does look like Simon's running out very quickly. He just needs to get close enough, like now, which he is starting to kind of do. He just needs to get a good exit here, and if he can get by Simon. But it's just not going to happen simply because of this reason. Because Simon now will still have the DRS because he's still within a second of Lars. If Lars wants to help Boss, then simply he would just pull away from Simon. If he doesn't want to help Boss and just leave him behind, which probably he will do because he currently right now is getting no threat from Simon, but Boss is looking very threatening towards Simon. So once he gets past Simon, there's no doubt he'll be like that to Lars as well. So we'll just have to wait and see. Is that a little bit of wing damage there for Red Bull? No, it's not. Just an awkward camera angle. But for Boss, he just needs to get by really at this point if he wants to get a podium or get any higher than 4th place.
This might be a slight opportunity. He's closing into the chicane. Is he going to send one down the inside? No, he's not. And with this DRS, I think this is going to be his best opportunity. If he can make sure that Simon is having to use a bit of DRS to defend into Sanderbot and defend coming out of Sanderbot, he's not going to have a lot to defend with coming into that chicane. And if Boss can concentrate on his exit, although he's had a big bump with the wall and he's a very lucky man to get away without losing an end plate, if Boss can just set this up very early on by maybe forcing Simon into some defensive moves earlier in the lap, that might be the key here. He's probably going to need to do that because at the moment M Short would still be within penalty range of him. Falk and Dynastics are both coming to the pits. I think both to repair damage. They're down in 14th and 15th, so it promotes the Haas boys off the bottom of the grid. There's some battles going on further back as well. Joey trying to recover, obviously, after that disconnection. He has got a chance of getting ahead of Gonanainen because Gonanainen's tyres are really going to be struggling in those final few laps.
Yeah, and Joey does seem to have that good pace at the moment. If Gonanainen is not in that DRS zone, it's a big plus for Joey if he can get in that DRS. Looks like the tyres are changing a little bit, but that's only a few corners. I wonder on the straights is what's making Joey's time is helping him, but I don't really know. There's a lot of gaps to go off right now, and not really much battles going on other than the guys towards the front, but I will be very interested towards the end of the race and how Gonanainen can cope with his, what would be at the end, around 34, 35 lap odds medium. So that's going to be a very interesting thing to look at.
Yeah, at the moment he doesn't seem to be doing too bad. Still staying roughly within range of Cedric, just outside of DRS range then, as Joey was outside of his as well. For the final points position, you've got Pat and Zach, now both on the hard tyres. Not under any pressure from anyone behind and not in a situation where they're going to be putting anyone under pressure at front. So Zach, who's had a few podiums so far, of races, got a 2nd in Austria, 3rd in Belgium, 3rd in France. Currently looks like it is going to be his first race of the season without any points. You've got to say, these drivers that started on the mediums, that safety car really ruined their strategy, obviously, because Pat, he's the lead car that started on the mediums and he's only in 10th.
Yeah, a big moment, that safety car, and say it came out on the first few laps and all the soft runners decided to come into the pits for mediums. That would have been an interesting situation because it basically would have been roles reversed. So they'll all be on the same tyres, but obviously we've seen how much the field can spread here simply because of strategy, and I wonder if perhaps there was someone on the medium tyres, and this would be an interesting strategy if it obviously were to play out. It's a bit too late now, but if someone was on the soft tyres and they had a teammate on the alternate strat on the medium tyres, and they were at the front of the grid, so say Lakitu came into the pits in the first lap, I wonder if he would have opted for hards because he knew he would have come out ahead, but he would have been favouring his teammate at the front there. I wonder if that would have been what the tactic would have been for teammates early on in this race, but it's a bit too late to say that now. But that's going to be fantasy thinking, and not going to lie, it would have been a very, very interesting race at that point. Yeah, it's a shame because this race could have had a little bit more unpredictability and excitement, but it just looks like Lakitu is basically he's basically got one hand on the Monaco Grand Prix trophy now, and obviously should be taking a closer step forwards to M Short in the Drivers' Championship. Lars, though, he'll be pretty confident with the end of this race, I reckon, and the commentator's curse almost strike there as he tapped the barrier there, which put him a little bit on edge, but no damage, which is lucky.
Yes, and I think I've put the commentator's curse on Joey because he seems to have dropped further back from Gonanainen. and just starting to drop into the clutches of Compassion. But Lakitu still just pulling away. He's now got a 6.3 second lead with 12 laps to go. He is driving the perfect Monaco performance. He got a good start. Those ahead of him made mistakes. He's just had to concentrate on his own race, and it looks like he will be getting, for the second race out of the last three, looks like he will be getting the win here. So we'll have to wait and see how it goes. We'll have to see if there's any safety cars that are coming out now, because then we might see a barrage of cars coming into the pits to put any fresh soft tyres that they've got on, especially those towards the back of the field that haven't got anything to lose. And talking about possible safety cars, Falk has had a big spin coming through the first part of the swimming pool and has also had to reverse all the way along the road, freewheel basically. Luckily for him, he went into the wall backwards, and that doesn't really do a lot of damage on this game unless you hit it high speed and at an angle. I think he's already cooked those medium tyres, so I wonder if Falk will be putting a set of softs on here or deciding to go into retirement. If he puts the softs on, he's probably looking good for a fastest lap, and he has indeed retired from the race. So we're down to just 14 runners now all of a sudden here, and Lars slightly losing a bit more time on that lap. And Boss, the closest he got to Simon was pretty much soon after the safety car. He's not really looked to have another go since.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see how this battle plays out towards the end of this race now. With 10 laps to go, I feel like it's very, very close now for Simon, because Simon seems to be doing a whole lot better than what he was doing. And these three just seem to be a bit more desperate as Boss. I don't know who missed their braking point there, whether it was Boss or Simon or Lars. Someone braked way earlier than what Boss did. Has Boss got damage on that
Yes.
right-hand side? Yes, he has. So for Boss, that is not good news at all, and he'll probably drop back now. So that is basically chances of any podium basically gone unless there's another safety car, which is such a shame for him, because he was running quite well in this race, and he was just waiting for the perfect opportunity that doesn't look like it's going to come anymore.
Yes, it almost looked like Simon went a bit deep into that corner, and Boss sort of followed him in sympathy pretty much, and ended up just tapping his front wing. Now, it depends how severe the damage is. It looks like it is just an end plate, so it's definitely worth just carrying on. He might be able to defend, and he was going to drop behind M Short anyway on penalties, but that is now a certainty, and M Short might be able to get him on track, just defending as long as he can keep it clean in the latter stages of this race. Maybe now we'll see Simon think, right, I can maybe afford to attack Lars a bit more because I'm not under that same amount of pressure from behind.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what the encouragement is now. He knows that the driver behind him is not going to be a worry, and he's really looking to have a go at Lars. He's gone a little bit wider there at that corner. I wonder if that's just to try and get a better exit. Hasn't exactly worked, but we've still got one corner to really determine whether it's going to work or not. And no, he's not going to go for it here. I think he's going to settle for the DRS straight, but that has lost him quite a bit of valuable time. If there was a safety car to come out right now, good heavens for Lakitu. Even if he did pit right now, under a safety car, of course, that is, he would just still come out in the lead, I think, at this point, because 9 seconds gap is it's a lot to make up under a safety car condition, and this pit lane isn't particularly long. So for Lakitu, whatever happens now, whether he can make a stop with the safety car or not, I think he's just going to go on to win this race easily now.
Yeah, he's got 9.5 second lead with 9 laps to go. It's very difficult, unless he has a big moment and crashes and loses most of his front wing. Even if he loses an end plate, I think he'll be able to hang on. Boss gets himself another penalty, so maybe he does have to start just being a little bit careful. It is very easy to pick up penalties once you start getting damaged on this circuit. And it looks like Cedric's starting to struggle, because Gonanina and Joey and Compassion just closing up to the back of him. This battle, what is currently for 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th on track. Cedric and Gonanina, of course, with penalties will drop to the back of this. In fact, I think Cedric currently has 6 seconds, so he dropped to 9th position as things stand. And looking at the time gaps, Joey is only effectively about half a second behind Boss at the moment, so Boss could very easily lose a few more places in this race.
Well, yeah, but that just depends on how well Boss can defend. This is what it's about now. It's not about attacking for Boss. It's how can he defend his position now. That's basically the strategy. And the problem is he's now got that wing damage, so he's more under pressure than ever. And particularly now with the championship leader coming up close behind, he'll be looking to get past him quite swiftly. But I wonder how much Boss is going to defend this position and how aggressively is he going to do so. Because I think Boss would argue that he's still arguably quite a contender for this season. He just needs to get a race win under his belt, a little bit of confidence. And it's the guy behind him who is basically just going to steal that away from him by getting past him. So really for Boss, if he keeps this position and then obviously ends up dominating the rest of the season, a championship is still in the frame. However, M Short gets past nice and easy, it probably be a little bit different. So I'm very interested to see how Boss defends this, to be honest.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see. I imagine part of him's thinking I might as well try defending anyway, for obviously like a bit of pride and everything. But on the other hand, he's just struggling with it at the moment, obviously with big amounts of damage, and that is always going to make it very tricky indeed. But we'll see how he does, locking up there ever so slightly into the hairpin, which is exactly what you'd expect, and that's just going to allow, well, if he starts holding up M-Short, surely, even though Cedric is struggling, surely we'll just see this train start to catch up as well.
Yeah, and I think the train behind them should catch up for this now, because Cedric is just, I don't know what it is, Cedric's not made any time on M Short though and Boss, which is kind of surprising. No time being made, and I think this is now at the moment where for Compassion, Joey and Gonanen, they'd want to look to get past Cedric. If any of them are aware of the damage up ahead, or the fact that M Short's probably getting completely, I wouldn't say blocked, but completely hindered by Boss because of his damage. But for Cedric, he doesn't seem to be going that quick, and Gonanen is just following him, Joey's following him, and then Compassion's following him as well. So a lot of following at the moment, but no real overtakes or no real opportunities to overtake at the moment for any of them. So I think this is literally what it's going to be for the final few laps. And for Cedric, I would be surprised if he catches up to the back of him, but I also wouldn't.
Yes, I think a lot of it depends on the final lap. It's probably Joey and Compassion and maybe Lars and Simon where you're going to start to see the moves. As Gonanen now picks up another penalty, so all of a sudden he's got to start thinking, right, where can I get ahead of Cedric? Because now they're both on 6 seconds, and Gonanen can't just sit back and rely on that to get himself some points. And let's not forget, he qualified on pole. Compassion qualified in second place, and they both got drive-through penalties in the early stages of this race. That really cost them. Simon now picks up a time penalty all of a sudden, so that puts Lars under a lot less pressure. He could probably afford not to go for any silly defending at the moment and just relax ever so slightly, because with 6 laps to go, I'm not sure whether Simon would have enough of a pace to pull away that gap at this moment in time. So as the tyres are wearing, unsurprisingly, we are just seeing those few more penalties start to creep in, and there's still a battle going on for the final points position, and Pat still has track position. These tyres aren't going to wear out whatsoever, but they're nowhere near close enough to catch up to those ahead. Zach, just maybe he'll be thinking, right, where can I go for a move all of a sudden here? And if it's not into turn 1, Sandoval, if it's not into the chicane, where else is there really a good opportunity? Or do you then have to rely on a driver making a mistake?
Rascasse? But, I mean, in this game, you can't. We do see it in real life F1 happen. I think Leclerc is a prime example of showing people how to work it and how not to work it at the same time. But Rascasse is an opportunity, but for some reason in this game, barely anyone, if not nobody, can make it through there, yet in real life they can. So that's probably like one of the few instances where, you know, you can actually make overtakes in real life but can't make it in the game, where it's usually you can make it in the game but can't make it in real life. So a little bit of a twist, and that's what this circuit is really in this game. It's basically resembles real life. It's one of the tracks that really does resemble the real life race. Boring, long, quite a few trains, and just desperacy to overtake but just unable to do it. So that is exactly what this race is, and like I said, there's no real overtaking spots, is there? Only the first corner if you're lucky. Basically, unless you're side by side, that's the only way you're going to overtake it. That's basically the only point. And going side by side through here is not easy because there's no DRS sections except from down to the first corner, which is hard enough to get out that corner side by side anyway. So yeah, very difficult, very tricky, and you know, it's a huge risk factor just making a move on your opposition.
Yeah, Seb Vet's coming to the pits to put a set of soft tyres on, so he's just going for glory now. he's going for the fastest lap. And I think this is why we need to get Formula One cars that are, A, can follow each other better, which is what we're going to see in 2022, hopefully, but also just make them a bit smaller again. I can see why, for safety reasons, they've gone for the classic, if I've got more carbon fibre around me, I'm less likely to get injured, understandably, and safety has to be the number one thing when they're making alterations to the cars. But with the cars being the size they are now, it used to be awkward to overtake at Monaco in Formula One. We're starting to head to where, unless the driver in front of you makes a mistake, it is nigh on impossible at the moment. I mean, Simon's been staring at the back of Lars ever since the safety car came in. He's had DRS for all but the first 2 laps and just hasn't been able to do anything about it at the moment. And Hemshort, since he's caught up to Boss can defend even with that broken end plate. It's very possible to defend around this track with one broken front wing end plate. You've just got to concentrate on getting the exits right into the chicane, so out of Portier, and then out of Anthony Oaks. Oh, Gonanainen's made a mistake. If, of course, the driver makes a mistake, it's very easy. Gonanainen's had a big mistake coming through the chicane. He's knocked off part of his front wing, and that might give Patton Zak a chance to just catch him up when it comes to penalties at the end.
Yeah, there's an 11-second gap between them, so very tricky to catch up. But in terms of it, I won't be entirely surprised. We've seen Cedric catch up slightly, but it seems to not really affect people so much, though. The fact that Boss's wing damage hasn't exactly meant that Cedric has caught up like extremely much. He's got up by a couple of seconds, but not much.
No, he hasn't. I think Ferreira's made a mistake through the chicane as well, and that's allowed Dynastics to get ahead of him. Fair play to these guys. They've had quite bad races, I think they'd admit by their standards. Sebvet's made 4 stops, but he's still going on. He is a lap down. He's just going for the fastest lap here. He's just trying to get himself a bit of glory as Lakitu rounds Raskas, heading into Anthony Oaks for the 37th time. 2 more laps to go then for him. Boss has now picked up another time penalty, so that's really putting him under pressure from, obviously, Joey and Compassion, and it would have been Gonanainen if he didn't have penalties and damage himself. So this is getting very, very interesting indeed. The driver's probably getting a bit mentally fatigued now. It is one of the longest races you can expect of the season. I'd say outside of Singapore, you're not getting a longer race than this. There's the fastest lap from Seb Vet. Lars still ahead of Simon there with 2 laps to go, and with that penalty, he's probably staying ahead now. Gonanainen coming into the pits. That is very interesting indeed, because he might have just about held on for a point. He's just now clearly thinking, I'm setting the fastest lap here.
Yeah, well, he would have held on for a point, but I don't understand that. Why is he coming to the pits for? Because I know he's going to set the fastest lap, but he's just sacrificed 2 points for that. And he sacrificed also 2 positions, in fact possibly 3. In fact, it is going to be 3. In fact, it's not. In fact, that was a bit close, but yeah, Gonanen's just sacrificed 2 points for nothing. That's odd. I don't exactly know that point of thinking for Gonanainen, but suit yourself, really, at the end of the day.
I mean, there was a chance that Patton Zak might have caught up enough because of the penalties, but obviously he was aiming for the fastest lap. He's now got a great big red Ferrari in front of him, which is going to make it very awkward indeed to get that fastest lap. Ferreira's coming to the pits and put the soft tyres on. We were probably expecting this at the end of the race, and I think we might be expecting an overtake soon. Dynastic sort of sticks to the middle of the road, and Gonanainen's just got so much more grip, and then turns in too early and wipes off his front wing end plate. And I think that pretty much sums up our pole sitter's race there. He just turned in too early, caught the inside of the Nouvelle chicane. We see drivers sometimes catch up with their rear tyre and spin around and get away without any damage. He's not been so lucky, and that pit stop just looks more and more pointless. It's not been his finest race, I think he'll admit. It's such a shame, obviously, after starting from pole position. But coming into the final sector now, the final few corners, he took advantage of a fantastic start to get ahead of Boss. Once we then saw Gonanainen and Compassion get penalties, there wasn't really a lot of doubt who was going to take the victory here. He has absolutely blitzed the field on pace. It's a win from Lakitu, his 2nd of the season. Lars still ahead of Simon, who looks to have dropped back ever so slightly in these final few laps, but it's going to be their best results of the season. Lars is going to get his 1st podium of this F3 season. Redemption from last time out at France, weaving towards the finish line. He takes second place. A great podium for Simon, the reserve driver, just hanging on in the end from M Short. Joey ends up finishing 6th. Compassion working his way up to 5th position. Boss losing 4 places there because of penalties. Really costly in the end. Pat comes home in 9th. Zach will be 10th. We'll see Dynastics, Conanan 11th, 12th. Ferrer and Seb Vet will be the final finishers. We hardly saw him on screen just because of how far ahead he was. What a performance from the Renault driver, Lakitu.
I completely forgot his last lap, to be honest. I think that was how remarkable his driving was today. And yeah, we never really saw him on board simply because of how far ahead he was. I don't know how he made 19 seconds to Lars in the end. Because he's basically made 10 seconds in 10 laps. How is he that quick at this track? I do not know. That was very impressive performance. A remarkable performance from Lakitu. And arguably, I'm not going to say this really too early because I don't want to be too early with this suggestion, but that is a champion's drive right there. And I think Lakitu will be looking at that with full confidence. And M Short, on the other hand, a decent race, but probably not one he would have particularly wanted overall. He probably would have wanted to continue having a strong season, and it's a good result, but he would have liked to probably be on that podium today again.
Yes, definitely. I think the top 4 will probably be reasonably happy with how their races went, but no one will be happier, obviously, than the race winner, and he's now up into 2nd in the championship, working his way ahead of Zach. Lakitu takes the victory. Lars in 2nd. Simon, his first podium in the season in what is only his 2nd race. M Short, the first time he's not finished on the top step. Never mind not finishing on the podium. Compassion in 5th. Joey, a good performance from him. Who knows what he could have done if he hadn't have had that disconnect that dropped him behind his teammate and a couple of other cars. He came home for 6th. Cedric and Boss, penalties costing them. They were 7th and 8th. Pat and Zach, the safety car cost them as they came home in 9th and 10th. Dynastics was 11th. Conanan, a drive-through penalty. He tried to make those tyres last. He broke his front wing. He came into the pits. He broke his front wing again. He was 12th. Ferrer and Sebet kept Haas busy with 4 pit stops each. And Falk, Chapalele, Ginger and Benny were the retirees from that race. Plenty of stuff happened in that. Plenty of close battling. But at the end of the day, once the safety car came out, we knew no one else was coming into the pits. We probably weren't expecting too many overtakes apart from when drivers got damage. And that was really the case.
Yeah, I think it showed a little bit of unpredictability in this race. Probably not as much as I would have wanted. I would have liked to see a little bit more of a fight at the front or despeраcy to show for a race win. But obviously, unfortunately, we didn't get that. But let's be real here. The performance from Lakitu was unimaginably in another level. He was in another world, completely clear of absolutely everyone. So well done to him today. And I think anyone who really had to suggest it, he would be their driver of the day, no matter what the game says or anything. He was easily cut above anyone else today, and it was pretty obvious to see. I think Lars will be very happy with that performance as well. I think coming off from qualifying, he did all right, and then in the race, it went all right. But I think after that safety car, that really helped him out. Really helped him out by a lot, and I think that's really what's proven his worth today. And I think that is the reason why he was able to get on the podium. And I think he's the only one also we're going to be speaking to, because I don't think anyone else is really interested in joining, I'm afraid.
Yeah, well, you say the safety car helped him out. I just wonder if he could have finished, if he could have ended up winning that race, because obviously he'd already pitted. He'd have probably been catching up to Lakitu. And when Lakitu pitted under the safety car, he only came out about a second ahead of him. One more lap, we could have maybe seen Lars winning. Who knows? Who knows indeed. But we are going to get him then into the commentary box to have a chat with the driver getting his first podium of the season, redemption for the puncture in France with a 2nd position. It is Lars, and that was a fantastic race from yourself. You had to soak up a lot of pressure after the safety car period.
Yeah, it was a very good race from me. From P8, it was a shit qualifying again. But qualifying is not my best point. The race is a lot of better. But yeah, it was a good recovery, and Simon keeping the pressure on me. So yeah, and lap 28, I got a bit of damage, but I defended him.
Ah, okay. Well, we didn't actually see that bit of damage. Obviously, you're very happy to get your first podium, but do you think if there hadn't have been that safety car, could it have been one better? Because when Lakitu pitted under the safety car, you weren't too far behind him.
Yeah, but my tires were from lap 7, and I think his tires were from lap 10. So yeah, he had a lot of better tires, and yeah, on Monaco he had a lot of better pace.
First podium of the season, obviously for yourself. You've shown some good face so far. You're moving yourself up. I believe now that's up to 6th in the championship. What's the goal now for the rest of the season? We've got 7 races. Do you think you've got a chance of challenging for the title, or are you just aiming for a top 3 perhaps?
Yeah, I'm aiming for a top 3. M Short is scoring every race good points, so that's impossible, I think. But a top 3 spot would be nice.
Sam, do you have any questions for Lars?
Nope. All have been answered.
Well, congratulations, Lars, on your first podium of the season, and hopefully we'll get a chance to speak to you again soon.
Yeah, thanks.
We're now going to bring in the driver who finished 3rd in that race and was putting Lars under quite a bit of pressure at various points in that race. Only his 2nd race of the season. It is URL Simon. A fantastic performance from yourself. You were putting Lars under lots of pressure. You just couldn't quite get that move done.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a quite intense race with a little bit, practice before, but I was also a bit lucky, but it was okay in the end.
Now, you seemed, just looking from our point of view, it seemed like you struggled a bit more on the softs than the mediums. Was that something you felt as well? Because it looked as though you were able to keep up with those ahead of you much better after the safety car period.
With the softs, I had a lot of tire wear, and yeah, but with the mediums was okay all the race long. With the end, I think I got in the tires 74%, and this was very, very risky.
Sam, do you have any questions for Simon?
Yeah, I do have a question. There's something Luke acknowledged in the race, and we were just wondering, have you recently turned off ABS? Because you seem to be locking up quite a bit, and Luke seemed to have noticed that on a lot of your time charts you were running ABS. Because we were just wondering if you were like kind of new, and I was just curious.
Yeah, this was I turned the ABS off. Yes, you can see it. Or I can send you a video when you want, but yeah, with the ABS, I'm faster definitely, but yeah, I try to drive without the ABS now, and yeah, let's see what the future brings.
Yeah, what was the particular main struggle about it today? Was it just a sense of locking up every corner, or do you just felt like it was quite easy to manage?
Yeah, I think it was not easy, but it was also very, very hard because in the 2019 game I always drive without the ABS, but for the 2020 I turned it on. So I've got some experience without the ABS, yeah, but it wasn't easy, but it wasn't also not hard. It was something in the middle.
You're also obviously new to PSGL. You've only had 1 race in France. This is your 2nd race.
Yeah.
Do you have any particular goals this season, or do you just want to have similar results to what you had today?
Yeah, I only want the results like today. I don't have any goals because it wasn't only my 2nd race, and yeah, I only want to drive very fast and learn a lot without the ABS, and yeah, that's what my goal is.
I have no more questions then.
Well, yeah, thank you, Simon, for joining us, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to you again soon. Congratulations on your first podium of the season.
Thank you.
Well, Sam, I think in the end that Monaco race was probably pretty much what we expected at the end of the day. Plenty of close battling, not too many overtakes. I don't think any of us would have expected Lakitu, though, to win by 20 seconds. He looked he looked so good in the race. He just took advantage, though, of other drivers' mistakes, really.
Yeah, he did, and I think Lakitu really. I just don't understand. His qualifying was all right, but I just felt like in the race he just had so much better pace than anyone else. He looked so much more prepared than what anyone else did, and he hasn't said anything in the chat. Like, he hasn't just said yes or anything. He hasn't seemed to gloat it or anything. I think he's just gone in, got the result, and he's going out with a fixed head thinking about the championship. He doesn't want to think about one result, and he's one of those drivers that probably takes it maturely. I've won this race now, but it's not the end of the season. It's not going to be a result that determines everything for Lakitu. So he's just going to, I think he's just going to relax a little bit. He's just going to take it like Kimi Raikkonen normally does. Like, I finally won a race now, and, now I can push, or now we can fight, as Fernando Alonso would say, or whatever. But I think there'll be a more relaxed view from Lakitu, and I think he would be thinking about possibly looking to challenge M Short again. How many points is it now between them after that victory?
I mean, M Short ended up finishing in 4th position in the end, so I think it is 9 points now. M Short's still in the lead of the championship, and Lakitu up into 2nd, but it's still pretty close, and they've both had, obviously, one non-score. M Short was missing in Belgium, and Lakitu just had a bit of a nightmare in Britain, I think, getting a late drive-through penalty. But he's shown, them two drivers seem to be the ones that have showed pace everywhere, whereas a few of these others, Cedric, obviously, not his best race today, his lowest finish of the season. Zach, starting on that alternate strategy, didn't work. Do we reckon the title's going to just be between M Short and Lakitu, or is there someone else who could maybe bump their way up all of a sudden?
I think Louis has a lot more to prove. However, the fact that he didn't show today was a huge blunder in the championship for him. He gained no points, and he's probably lost a few positions as well. Mainly looking at the likes of Lars, who finished 2nd. I think he's now right behind him, actually. But at the moment, I think Zach's performance hasn't damaged him too much. I think he did pick up a point, did he? I think he finished. Yes, he did pick up a point. So for him, I think he'd be happy that he picked up a point, and he wouldn't be worrying too much, but he definitely would like to have a win if he wants to keep in this championship fight. If not, it is probably Lakitu versus M Short at the moment.
Yeah, we will have to see, of course. And if any of these drivers that have had a bad Monaco Grand Prix and probably never want to go anywhere near the circuit again, they've got the complete opposite next Monday night. It will be Monza as we reach the halfway point of the season, round 6 out of 12, next Monday at 7 p.m. here in F3. If you tune in live now, there is the F1 action, of course, with Owen Wyatt and Austin Smith, and also F5 and F6 are live now. The first Monza race will be tomorrow with Formula Performance, with the lower tiers of the Equal Performance Leagues on Thursday, and Sunday, before we come back on the Monday at 7 p.m. But for myself and Sam, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time around for some more PSGL action. Goodbye.